your whole system will clean, and it's not a big deal. Why you not do it? And you can try, have that experience, how high you can reach. And then the answer he gave to me actually convinced me. And he said, because it's not legal. Okay? So when I turn into 21 years old, maybe I can try a glass of wine, see how it tastes. And marijuana is not legal. I'm not going to touch it unless it becomes legal, maybe or may not to try it. Okay, that's the answer he gave to me. And I believe this generation, they're really good law follower, okay? So that means if it's not legal, a lot of them, they won't do it. And let me give you examples to say that. When my kids were very young, 3, 4 years old, just go to the kindergarten, 4 or 5 years maybe. So one time I hold their little hands and walk around in our neighborhood street. And there's traffic lights, and the lights is red, but there's no cars, there's no people walking. So I tend to, let's walk, right? And my little daughter, very small, and she goes, Mommy, don't, you're jaywalking. See, they follow the rules, right? Even little kids know. And now the big kids tell me if it's not legal, then not do it. Okay, let me show you. Actually, those are the questions I asked these kids. And I'm satisfied what the answer he gave it to me, because it's not legal, so he won't do it. And then the next question I asked him, do you think it would become illegal, smoking marijuana in the state of California? And he says, yes, I think so. And I said, give me the reason why you think so. Well, he said, do you remember why alcohol became illegal? That's in the 1920s, the time after the recession. You know, similar to right now, we have a big economic crisis, and U.S. government has a big financial deficit. So they owe a lot of money, and they said, okay, alcohol become illegal, just to have an age 21 years old, you can buy alcohol. And then that generates a great federal tax income and support the federal government. And now look at the state of California, and we almost bankrupted, right? And just most recently. So if we make marijuana legal, and then the state of government, state of California will probably have no economic crisis anymore, right? So it's very smart kid. Do you agree? Okay. So and I do think he get some important point. I know I have 2 more minutes. I just have one more thing to say. And so that let me think. When the things become illegal, is that all good we should follow? No, right? Even someday the marijuana become illegal. Okay, government have their own thinking. Should we have our own philosophy towards our life? We should, right? So that day when I drive home with my son, I talked about this more with my son. And I said, I'm very grateful for you guys as a good citizen to follow the law, to obey the rules. But I hope during your teenager years, until you become a young adult, this is the time period you should build up a good philosophy of your life and also the value towards this world. And you know you have your own standards set. This is right, this is wrong. And I give him an example. For me as a Christian, okay, I have a Bible in my heart. And if I feel something I do have a desire to do, but I feel God won't be happy, I'm not going to do it. So I told this to my son, he basically accepted. And this is the question I actually want all you parents to ask yourself. Other than all those legal rules, how or what can you do to help your children to build up the philosophy of their life? And that's what we all should think about. Thank you very much. So the next one will be Peter and Nicholas. I'll turn it to you. Thank you.
Yes. Nina, thank you for that very thoughtful presentation. I want to make a quick mention. The 2 index cards, let me revise that. 1 card is for questions and answers because we're going to have a Q&A time toward the end of this afternoon. If any questions about the content, feel free to direct to any of the parents or the teens. Write them down on one of the cards, and the other one we'll save for the activity. So feel free, for the last and then the next 2 presentations, jot down questions, and we'll gather them in a little bit.
Okay, so to refresh your memory, I'm Peter.
And I'm Nick. I hope you didn't miss us. And our next topic is pressures.
But first, we're going to show you a video.
So, what do you think is the greatest pressure in high school?
Pressure to do well? Yeah, to do well.
So, like grades, academics?
Yeah. Yeah.
How big would you say this would be?
The pressure, it's around you all the time. Like, yeah, like 80-90%.
Like, basically, the only thing you hear at Lynbrook, like, the way people start conversations is like, oh, how'd you do on your SATs?
Yeah.
You know?
That's
Or like,
like
oh,
an
what classes
icebreaker.
are you taking? You know?
The largest pressure in high school would definitely be grades and getting things and achievements for college to get into a good college.
So would you say that your parents mainly add to your pressures, or would they help relieve your pressures in this regard?
I think for the most part, like my parents are not too like nagging about it, and that like allows me to focus more on actually like learning the stuff rather than trying to get the grade.
So you see this is a pretty big pressure?
I see this as a pretty big pressure.
So how would you relieve this pressure then, or relieve the stress?
Well, I guess just hanging out with friends and talking to them, it really relieves stress because, you know, you're not really alone in this sort of pressure, and just, I don't know, hang out and relax.
Well, actually, I think, well, at least for my family, I think, like, I didn't talk to my parents a lot about my stress because I felt that they were that they're like a reason of my stress. But then, I think it's just a matter of like how you reach out to your parents first. Like sometimes they don't know how to approach you, but if you approach your parents, then they'll have a lot more to say about it.
All right.
So as we clearly can see, almost all the teens agreed that their largest pressure was in terms of academics and grades. Now, how big of a pressure this may be may change with the person, but for everyone, their number one pressure is dealing with school. As one teen said,
In high school, there is a lot of pressure to get the best grades and to become what your parents want you to be. Now, there were multiple responses to pressures, but we broke it down into the three largest answers that we got. And the first one is suppressing feelings, which basically they keep it to themselves and they just live with it. The second one is depression. They usually become really they overanalyze things, and they just become really downright sad. Now, 2 years ago, there was a student at my school who dropped out of high school because he couldn't take the grades, the pressure of maintaining his 4.0 GPA, straight A's. Now, in middle school in his freshman year, he had straight A's, 4.0s, and once he got into sophomore year, it was more like he hit a wall. He could not advance further, and he felt really pressured to get that straight A 4.0. And so because of this, he became an insomniac. He couldn't keep up with his grades, and basically he dropped out of high school. And you got to keep in mind that he's also a part of our community. He's a part of the Asian community. And so not only did this affect him, it also affected his mom, who had to quit her job to help maintain her son's life.
some students also sacrifice their passions in order to make room for academics. This may include sports or perhaps playing an instrument. Many also give up their hobbies, such as art, in order to be able to compensate for the amount of time required to study. We also asked teens if their parents helped to relieve their pressures or mainly added to their pressures. The general consensus was that parents usually hurt their pressures and added to them more. Even the most lenient parents